You're about to listen to an excerpt of Secret City Geek Lab broadcast on KTSTFM.com every Wednesday at 7 o'clock p.m. For more news, reviews, and interviews from the world of geek, visit the Geek Lab at secretcitycomedy.com/geeklab or like us on Facebook at facebook.com/secretcity. Enjoy the show.
I tried to really make it Veronica Mars for newbies, or Veronica Mars made simple. And what I mean by that is the movie doesn't go into much of the mythology of Veronica Mars. We don't dwell on the murder of Lily Kane or the bus crash. I think at the very beginning of the movie, we tell the audience, the new audience, what they need to know, that Veronica Mars was a teenage private eye, and we try to make that feel as realistic as possible. And if you know that, then you don't need to know much more. When we announced the Kickstarter campaign, and of course, before we could ever launch, we had to have Kristen Bell in a deal, and the studio felt confident that once Kristen was officially signed aboard, that we could then launch the Kickstarter campaign. But we couldn't promise that any of the favorites would be in there. We couldn't put their names in the Kickstarter campaign, and it killed me because I knew they all wanted to do the movie. But then it was so much fun to watch as each name got announced, and how, like, every one of them there would be that just endless comments of, it would not have been a movie if Wallace had not been in it. I would not have gone to it if Mac wasn't in the movie, and just on down the line. Like, everyone had such a hardcore constituency.
It did feel like something else was working in the universe to bring us back together, and it went beyond just our friendships, because we've all stayed close because we got along, but it was more than that. It was we were constantly reminded of our characters in interviews like this, and asked questions about the old series and did we want to go back to it. And so it felt like it was inevitable that there would be another incarnation of Veronica Mars. Rob and I had been talking about making movies since the series ended, but I think, you know, moving on to other projects, you kind of put it on the back burner, and I guess it had been over a year since we had even discussed anything, and Rob called and said, I have this idea, what about Kickstarter? And I had kind of heard of Kickstarter, and I thought it was brilliant because it was really the way for us to answer the question, do the fans want this? In the beginning of the film, Veronica is living in New York, dating Stosh Piznorski, the lovable Chris Lowell, who played Piz in the 3rd season. And he's working at NPR. She just got out of law school and is applying for big law firm jobs. She's run as far as she could away from Neptune. She doesn't want anything to do with the PI lifestyle anymore. So she's just trying to live like a normal, happy girl, which is very difficult for Veronica. And within the first few minutes, she sees on the television that her old pal Logan Echolls has been charged with what? Murder. And she's torn. Does she go help him and get sucked back in again, or does she continue to try and live this normal lifestyle in New York? Veronica Mars is it's really about a girl who was an outcast and made the best of her situation. It's watching the girl who keeps getting cut down and standing back up again and says the sassiest, funniest, most perfect lines of dialogue in any given situation. She's the girl that says exactly what you wanted to say in the moment.
Veronica not being a kid anymore makes her even more lethal, and really adds to the dynamic, the father and daughter dynamic, because he has less control over her. But yet that's what makes it funny. She still lives there, pretty much, you know, or she visits or whatever. But there still doesn't matter how old they are. They're connected. Coming back was a lot like revisiting a past life, a dream that you had that you thought was past, an old love that you thought was over, and then to just walk back into it and to pick up where you left off. A lot of the crew is different, but some of the crew, a face here and there. But when you're rolling and you're looking at Kristen Bell and you see and you know where she's gone since the end of and who she became after Veronica Mars, but when we're rolling, there she is. She's still that lovely girl that I met almost 10 years ago, and just you fall back into those relationships. It's like, it's fantastic. When you're funded by fans who have no ulterior motive, who aren't looking for profits, who just want that story, I don't think it's been that pure, you know, since you know, the Middle Ages, when a king would offer a playwright to write a play.
I was so excited to see what happened to Wallace that the first time I got my hands on the script, I said, "Where's Wallace? Where's Wallace? Where's Wallace?" So I had to go see what was going on with this guy. And then I sat down and I read it. And then I sat down the very next day and I read it again. And the cool part about it is, if you've never seen an episode of Veronica Mars or heard of our show, like I've said before, the movie stands alone as a good movie to me. When I got to the end of the read, I said, okay, this is going to be worth seeing if you just want to find out what all the fuss is about. So, and I hope, that's my hope, because I enjoyed it, just reading it.
He's not necessarily the most responsible guy, but there is sort of an aspect of him that's, you know, he's tapped into, like, I guess the sad side of life because, you know, of the experiences he's had. So I think Veronica empathizes with him for that reason, and I think that's something they kind of share because, you know, she's lost her mother, and, you know, he did too, and, you know, they kind of help each other, and there's a respect, even if it's animosity, you know, in the words that are thrown, and even with great joy that they're thrown, there's always, you know, a background of respect for the determination of her and whatever it is that she sees in me. I'm inspired that we created a show that relates to that many people. And I guess, yeah, I mean, what do you say? It's just, I think it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience to shoot a movie like this that was raised in this way. It was done by the love of people for a film project, for an art project. You know, so a lot of movies are made with just money, and it's fine. And it's like, this meant something to people, and they showed that to us, and we'll show it back to them in the movie. The way that this script is written is like it's almost like another episode, a longer episode of the show, which is great. But it also will tie in, you know, characters and elements that people, you know, want to see, like Chris Lowell, and you know, I think it'll be pleasing to all the people who love the show because it has that detective element, but it'll also have a lot of character stuff.
One of the first questions I asked Rob is if he thought it was difficult to write the script now, knowing that it was fan-funded, that he would, you know, that there would be this discrepancy in what he wanted to write versus maybe what the fans wanted to see. But I think thankfully, you know, there's obviously no bigger Veronica Mars fan than Rob. And so I think he and the fans kind of want the same story to be told. And I think what's really difficult about this script is that it needs to live on its own for people who aren't familiar with the show, but also have enough kind of Easter eggs in it for people who are diehard to feel like they're getting, you know, sort of their nostalgia's worth of history, you know, and I think he's really walked that line pretty masterfully. When I got hired on the show, Rob, I remember pulling me aside and being like, just so you know, every single person who watches the show is going to hate you because you're breaking up the couple that everyone wants together. we think you're a nice enough guy that hopefully they won't hate you that much. You got the job, you know, it's like, all right. No, I don't care. I mean, frankly, there's nobody who wants Logan and Veronica together more than I do. I think what's so great about a character like Veronica Mars is it's rare, sadly, to have an intelligent, beautiful, clever, witty protagonist, female, on screen. And there are so many brilliant, talented actresses out there waiting for that role. And, you know, it's a testament to Krysten's talent that she was the one to really embody it best, because she's remarkable. She's all those things.
A lot of people asked me that when the announcement was made. They were like, so what was it that's so special about the show, you know, that would make people, you know, just open up their wallets like that and just start you know, doing that huge movement to make the movie made. So of course I started watching the show again, because I was like, you know what, I'm gonna look for it now, and I'm gonna remind myself now that this is something even bigger than I ever realized. And I think there's something about our show and our cast, definitely our cast, that takes us all back to what it was like to be a teenager.
It's exciting to be a part of, because there's this great energy on set, because you feel so supported and wanted. It was also really fun just to get the gang back together again. And it was like no time had passed. A lot of time has passed, and everyone's like been doing their own thing, and everybody's still working, everyone's still at it. Most of those guys have kids now, which is funny. So does Krysten. It's like all grown up. Well, Veronica Mars is a special character, because she's super sassy, she's super smart, she's tough. She sort of marches to her own drummer, and Kristen Bell is such a great actress. She brings so much to it. Kristen's one of those actresses that she's just amazing. First of all, she can do the emotional stuff and the drama in a blink, and you're like, wow, that took you no time to get there. And also, she can really deliver a joke and hit her mark, and I've seen her do scenes, you know, in a rush, end of the night, have to act with an ex because the scene partner's gone, and she's just such a pro. She's the real deal, and I think that probably has something to do with it. Yeah.
Well, it's really funny because the great part about Rob Thomas is that he really knows how to take care of his characters, and he's an incredible writer. And I trust him so much, because I know how much he loves all of these characters. He really takes good care of us, you know. So I love that while it's been 9 years in the story, and obviously we've grown up and we've changed, but not really. Like, the core of our characters is still there. That's what is really fun about being able to work with this group again, is that we genuinely really like each other, and we like working together, and it makes for a really amazing working environment, because not only do we love our characters, but it's, you know, this doesn't feel like work. You're coming and you're hanging out with your friends, you're playing every day, you know? So it's really fun.
I think that even the thought of doing a movie for Veronica Mars was like the most fun idea ever. And like the fans, you really give credit to the fans, because they're the ones pushing for this movie. It wasn't like, we're like, we should do this. It was like all the fans bombarding Krysten and Rob and everyone at Warner Brothers to do this movie. And so we're like, well, yeah, we should probably do this. We should do it for the fans. And so we got to put this Kickstarter video together, which was so fun to make. Well, I think for Veronica Mars, it seems like it maybe would be like a teeny bopper show, but it's also got this like dark noir, mystery, Nancy Drew vibe to it that I think is really, really cool and kind of dark and twisted. So it's kind of sugar-coated on top. Veronica Mars, you know, oh, Veronica Mars, maybe it's sci-fi, we don't know, you know, but then underneath it's like, oh, rape and murder and you know, all that stuff. And I think people like that. And there's a lot of dick in there.
I think the phrase that best sums up the entire experience is unadulterated joy. You know, it was such a thrill. When we were doing the series, we were in such a great gear, and seasons 2 and 3 were a joy to do with this great young cast led by Kristen Bell. And to have the fans fund our way into coming back together again, everyone in great spirits. Yes, it's been a challenging movie to shoot. Yes, it's ambitious, but the feeling on the set has just been one of joy. And that's a really great experience to have on a movie.
But I think it was more about giving the fans what they want and what they were going to enjoy, and making sure you had those moments with the characters that they loved, and kind of giving them the candy of them being together and speaking in a way that they would enjoy and remember, and that was kind of respectful to the progression of their lives. And yeah, just kind of it was definitely written for the fans, so as it should be, because, you know, they paid for it. But it was definitely, they'll get a kick out of this, or they'll enjoy seeing these two people together.
This was a production of Secret City Geek Lab on KTSTFM.com. We broadcast every Wednesday at 7 o'clock p.m. Visit the Geek Lab at secretcitycomedy.com/geeklab, or like us on Facebook at facebook.com/secretcity.